Someone like you doesn't deserve to be here. I thought tonight would be beautiful, but when Vivienne raised her wine glass and threw that burgundy liquid straight at my face, I realized how wrong I was. The grand hall fell silent, every eye turning toward me. My white shirt was now drenched in expensive Merlot, and tears I couldn't hold back blurred my vision. Vivienne's laughter echoed through the space, sharp and cruel. Look everyone, this is Kian, a third-class Omega who thinks he can fit into elite circles. Whispers erupted around us. Some people laughed, others turned away in disgust. They could probably smell my pheromones too, that faint sweet vanilla scent now tainted with fear and humiliation. I stood there trembling, knowing no one would come to save me. This charity gala was a playground for the wealthy, and I was just an intruder. I was only here because my boss sent me as a representative from our small marketing firm. I didn't have a designer suit or powerful connections, just a modest assistant position, and apparently these people couldn't forgive me even for that. What makes you think you belong here? Vivienne stepped closer in her designer heels, her perfume overwhelming. A beggar Omega who probably snuck in on some alpha's charity. My breath caught in my throat. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, but my tongue felt frozen. My pheromones were releasing distress signals now, vanilla mixed with burnt sugar. Several alphas nearby wrinkled their noses, clearly unimpressed by my weak scent. In their world, even an Omega's fear had to smell expensive. The worst part wasn't the wine or the laughter. It was the way everyone just watched. Hundreds of people in glittering gowns and tailored suits, and not one stepped forward. Some looked uncomfortable, sure, but discomfort wasn't the same as action. They valued their social standing more than basic human decency. Your kind shouldn't even be allowed in here, Vivienne continued, emboldened by the crowd's silence. Did you steal that pathetic suit? Or did you rent it hoping no one would notice you're just nobody? Each word was a knife. I dealt with discrimination before being an Omega, meant constant reminders that society saw us as lesser. But this felt different. This was deliberate cruelty performed for entertainment. Vivienne wasn't just putting me in my place, she was making an example of me. My hands shook as I tried to wipe the wine from my face. The sticky liquid clung to my skin. My hair, I could taste it on my lips, bitter and humiliating. Someone in the crowd pulled out their phone. Great. This would be online within minutes. My boss would see it. My few friends would see it. Everyone would know I'd been publicly destroyed. Nothing to say? Vivienne tilted her head mockingly. I expected at least some backbone, but I guess that's too much to ask from. She stopped mid-sentence. Her expression changed from smug satisfaction to something else. Confusion? No. Fear. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Conversations died mid-word. The casual background noise of clinking glasses and polite chatter vanished completely. I felt it before I saw it. A shift in the air itself. A pressure that made my Omega instincts scream danger and safety. Simultaneously, I turned toward the entrance, and there he was. Caspian. My husband. My alpha. He stood in the doorway like a storm personified. His black suit was impeccable, custom-tailored to emphasize his powerful frame, but it wasn't his appearance that made everyone freeze. It was his presence, raw, undeniable authority that commanded immediate submission. His steel-gray eyes locked onto Vivienne with an intensity that could shatter glass. People moved aside without being asked. They created a path instinctively, their bodies responding to an alpha so dominant that resistance wasn't even an option. Some Omegas clutched at their necks protectively. Several alphas lowered their gazes. Everyone knew who Caspian Morretti was. Not just a businessman, not just wealthy. He was the man who controlled the city's underworld with ruthless efficiency. Politicians feared him. Rival crime families avoided him. And now he was walking toward me with murder in his eyes. Each step he took resonated through the hall. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. His pheromones flooded the space, cedarwood and smoke, mixed with something darker, something that screamed dominance and barely controlled rage. The scent was so powerful it made my knees weak. When he reached me, he stopped. For a moment I thought he might embrace me, might check if I was hurt. Instead, he simply removed his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The gesture was simple but significant. His scent enveloped me completely, and my body relaxed involuntarily. This was protection. This was a claim. Who is this? Vivienne's voice trembled despite her attempt to maintain composure. She clearly recognized danger when she saw it. Caspian didn't even glance at her. He took my hand firmly, possessively, and his touch sent warmth through my entire body. We're leaving, Kian. But I hesitated. I looked up at him, this alpha who terrified everyone but had never raised his voice at me. Caspian. I said we're leaving. His tone was soft, but it carried absolute authority. The kind that didn't invite argument. As we turned to go, Vivienne found her courage or her stupidity. Wait, who is he to you? Your driver? Some assistant you keep around? Caspian stopped. He turned slowly, and for the first time he looked directly at her. Just one look. His gray eyes were cold, calculating, and absolutely lethal. Vivienne stumbled backward 2 steps. This is my husband. Caspian's voice was low and deadly. And what you did to him will not go unanswered. The hall erupted in gasps and frantic whispers. Eyes widened in shock. Vivienne's face went from pale to ashen. Her confident sneer crumbled into raw panic. Husband, someone whispered. Caspian Morretti has an Omega husband? The revelation hit the crowd like a bomb. Caspian's name alone was enough to inspire fear. He was known for being merciless, for destroying anyone who crossed him, and I had never told anyone I was his, partly because our marriage was private, but mostly because I never understood why someone like him chose someone like me. Caspian tightened his grip on my hand and led me toward the exit. I glanced back once. Vivienne had collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face as the reality of her mistake crashed over her. The people who'd been laughing at me moments ago were now scrambling to distance themselves from her. Everything happened so fast. One moment I was being humiliated. The next I was being claimed by the most dangerous man in the city. As we stepped out into the cool night air, I could still hear the chaos erupting behind us, shocked conversations, desperate apologies from people who hadn't even defended me. The world had just learned that I wasn't nobody. I was his. And that changed everything. The limousine door closed behind us with a soft click that somehow felt final. Inside the car, silence stretched between us like a living thing. Caspian sat across from me, his jaw tight, his hands clasped together so hard, his knuckles had gone white. The partition between us and the driver was already up, giving us complete privacy. I should have felt safe, but instead I felt exposed. His pheromones were still elevated, that intense cedarwood and smoke combination that marked him as one of the most powerful alphas in the city. But underneath it, I detected something else, something I'd never sensed from him before. Barely restrained fury mixed with what might have been fear. Take off the jacket, he finally said, his voice carefully controlled. I obeyed, shrugging off his coat. My wine-stained shirt was fully visible now, clinging uncomfortably to my skin. The smell of alcohol mixed with my distressed pheromones created an unpleasant combination that filled the small space. Caspian leaned forward, his eyes scanning every inch of me like he was cataloging injuries. Did she touch you? Did anyone else? No. Just the wine. I'm fine. Really? You're not fine. His interruption was sharp. Don't lie to me, Kian. I could smell your fear from outside the building. Your pheromones were screaming distress so loudly that I almost broke down the doors. That shocked me. The gala was being held in one of the city's largest venues. For him to sense my distress from that distance meant I'd been even more panicked than I realized. Omega pheromones did intensify under extreme stress, but I hadn't thought mine were strong enough to carry that far. I didn't call you because I didn't want to bother you, I admitted quietly. You were in an important meeting. This was just a stupid social event, not worth interrupting your work. Not worth it? His voice dropped to a dangerous level. Someone publicly humiliated my husband and you think that's not worth my time? The way he said my husband made something in my chest tighten. We'd been married for 8 months, but I could count on one hand the number of times he'd explicitly claimed me like that. Our relationship was complicated, arranged through family connections, more contract than romance. At least that's what I'd thought. I'm sorry, I whispered, not knowing what else to say. Caspian's expression softened slightly. He moved from his seat to sit beside me, and before I could react, he pulled me against his chest. His arms wrapped around me carefully, like I was something precious that might break. The gesture was so unexpected that I froze. "Don't apologize," he murmured into my hair. "This isn't your fault. None of this is your fault." I could feel his heartbeat, surprisingly rapid for someone who always seemed so controlled. His pheromones shifted again, becoming less aggressive and more protective. My omega instincts responded immediately, my body relaxing into his embrace despite my emotional turmoil. "Why didn't you tell them about us?" I asked the question that had been haunting me since we left. "People don't know we're married. I've never understood why you wanted to keep it secret." His arms tightened around me. "It wasn't about keeping you secret, it was about keeping you safe. The moment people know you're connected to me, you become a target. Every enemy I have, every rival who wants to hurt me, they'll come after you. But tonight, protecting your safety became less important than protecting your dignity," he said firmly. "I won't let anyone treat you like that. I don't care what dangers it brings. They needed to know you're mine and that touching you means facing me." Something about the way he said it made my stomach flutter. There was possessiveness there. Yes, but also something deeper. Something that almost felt like genuine care. The car glided through the city streets, taking us toward his private estate on the outskirts. I'd only been there a handful of times. Despite being married, we maintained largely separate lives. He had his business, both legitimate and otherwise, and I had my simple job. We were more like roommates with a legal contract than an actual couple. "What happens now?" I asked quietly. "Now?" He pulled back enough to look at me, his gray eyes intense. "Now everyone knows you're under my protection. Vivienne and her family will face consequences. And you and I are going to have a conversation we should have had months ago." My anxiety spiked. "What kind of conversation?" "About what this marriage actually means." He reached up and gently wiped a streak of wine from my cheek with his thumb. The gesture was oddly intimate. "About what you mean to me." Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression hardened again. "It's already starting. 3 people have sent messages apologizing for tonight, claiming they didn't know who you were." "They shouldn't apologize to you," I said, feeling a flash of irritation. "They should apologize to me. They watched someone humiliate me and did nothing because they thought I didn't matter." A small smile crossed Caspian's face, the first real smile I'd seen from him tonight. "You're right. And they will apologize to you. Every single person who stood there and watched will come crawling begging for your forgiveness." "I don't want that either," I protested. "I just want to forget this whole night happened." "That's not how this works." His smile faded. "In my world, respect is everything. They disrespected you, which means they disrespected me. There are consequences for that." The cold certainty in his voice sent a shiver through me. This was the side of Caspian I rarely saw. The Mafia boss, the man who'd built an empire through fear and power. It was easy to forget when we were having quiet dinners or passing each other in the hallway of whichever residence we were sharing. But tonight, that dangerous side was fully on display. "I don't want you to hurt anyone because of me," I said carefully. He studied me for a long moment. "What if I told you it's too late? That the moment she threw that wine, the moment she called you those names, her fate was sealed?" My breath caught. "Caspian, do you really think I can let that slide?" His hand came up to cup my face. "You're my omega, Kian. Mine to protect, mine to defend. And anyone who harms what's mine learns a very permanent lesson." The possessiveness should have frightened me. Part of me recognized that his reaction was extreme, potentially dangerous. But another part, the omega part that had spent years being dismissed and degraded, felt something else entirely. Wanted, protected, valued. For the first time in my life, someone was willing to burn the world down for me. The estate appeared through the darkness like something from a Gothic novel, all sharp angles and imposing stone, surrounded by walls that probably cost more than most people's houses. Guards nodded respectfully as our car passed through the gates. They knew who I was, even if the rest of the world hadn't until tonight. Caspian helped me out of the car, his hand steady on my lower back as he guided me inside. The foyer was exactly as I remembered. Cold marble floors, expensive artwork that probably belonged in museums, and a silence that felt almost oppressive. This place had never felt like home to me. It felt like a fortress. "Come," he said simply, leading me up the grand staircase toward the master bedroom. We'd never shared it. On the few nights I'd stayed here, I'd used one of the guest rooms. The separation had seemed natural. Expected even. Our marriage was business after all. But tonight he led me directly to his private space. The bedroom was masculine and minimalist. Dark furniture, crisp lines. Nothing unnecessary. It smelled like him. That cedarwood scent, concentrated and heady. Shower, he instructed, opening a door that led to an attached bathroom. I'll get you clean clothes. Caspian, I can go to one of the guest rooms. You're staying here tonight. His tone left no room for argument. Where I can see you. Where I know you're safe. There was something different about him tonight. The careful distance he usually maintained had vanished. Now he was all intensity, all focused attention on me. It should have been overwhelming. But instead, it filled a hollow place inside me I hadn't realized existed. I went into the bathroom and closed the door. My reflection in the mirror was startling. Wine-stained clothes. Smudged makeup where I'd tried to wipe my tears. Hair disheveled. I looked exactly like what Vivienne had called me. Someone who didn't belong. The shower was a glass-enclosed space with multiple shower heads and controls that looked like they belonged in a spaceship. I figured out the basics and stood under water so hot it almost burned. The wine washed away in red streams, circling the drain like blood. Vivienne's words echoed in my head. Third class Omega. Beggar. Nobody. Was she wrong though? I was ordinary. I came from an ordinary family, had an ordinary job, lived an ordinary life. The only extraordinary thing about me was my connection to Caspian. And even that felt like a cosmic mistake. Why would someone like him marry someone like me? Our wedding had been small, almost businesslike. His family needed him to settle down, establish some normalcy. My family needed financial stability after my father's business collapsed. It was a transaction dressed up in wedding vows. He'd been perfectly polite during the ceremony, even kind, but there was no love confession, no passionate romance. Just two people fulfilling obligations. After that night, we'd fallen into a routine of polite distance. He worked constantly, traveling for business I didn't ask about. I maintained my job and my independence. We'd have dinners occasionally, exchange pleasantries, exist in each other's orbit without ever really colliding. It was comfortable in its own way. Safe. But tonight had shattered that comfortable distance completely. When I finally emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a towel, I found fresh clothes laid out on the bed, soft sleep pants and a shirt that were clearly his. They would be enormous on me, but they smelled like him and my Omega instincts found that deeply comforting. I dressed quickly and opened the door to find Caspian standing by the window, his back to me. He'd removed his jacket and tie, unbuttoned his shirt enough to show the strong column of his throat. In the dim bedroom lighting, he looked less like a dangerous crime lord and more like a man carrying heavy burdens. Better? He asked without turning around. Yes. Thank you. He finally turned to face me. His expression was unreadable, but his eyes tracked over me carefully, as if confirming I was truly unhurt. Come here, Kian. My feet moved before my brain could overthink it. I crossed the room until I stood in front of him, close enough to feel the heat radiating from his body. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and when I didn't, he cupped my face in both hands. I need you to understand something, he said quietly. What happened tonight can never happen again. Not because I'm embarrassed by you, but because I won't survive feeling what I felt when I saw you standing there humiliated and afraid. His thumb stroked across my cheekbone, the gesture achingly gentle. Do you know what that scent of yours does to me? Vanilla and caramel and something uniquely you. It's been driving me insane for 8 months. Every time I'm near you, every time I catch even a hint of it, my alpha instincts scream at me to get closer, to touch you, to claim you properly. My heart hammered against my ribs. Then why have you stayed away? Because I didn't want to trap you. His hands moved to my shoulders. You married me out of necessity, not choice. I thought if I kept my distance, you might eventually find some happiness despite being bound to someone like me. Someone whose hands are stained with things you shouldn't even know about. I knew what you were when I married you. I protested. Everyone knows about the Morretti family. Knowing and truly understanding are different things. He pulled me closer and I could feel the tension in his body. I've done terrible things. Kian, I've hurt people, destroyed lives, made decisions that would horrify you if you knew the details. I didn't want that darkness touching you, but I'm already touched by it. I'm your husband. In name only, he said bitterly. We've been living like strangers who happen to share legal documents. I convinced myself that was better for you. Safer. Now I realize it just left you vulnerable. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me against his chest. I could hear his heartbeat, feel the rise and fall of his breathing. This was the closest we'd ever been, the most honest conversation we'd ever had. What changed? I asked against his shirt. Tonight, watching someone hurt you, seeing you suffer while I wasn't there to prevent it. His voice roughened. It made me realize that keeping you at arm's length doesn't protect you, it just means you face the world's cruelty alone. He pulled back enough to look down at me. Tomorrow things are going to change. For Vivienne, for the people who watched and did nothing. For us, I'm not going to pretend anymore that this marriage is just a convenience. You're mine, Kian, and I take care of what's mine. The possessiveness in his words should have frightened me. Instead, it made me feel safer than I'd felt in years. Maybe that made me broken somehow, finding comfort in an alpha's claiming. Or maybe it just meant I was tired of facing the world's judgment alone. What about what I want? I asked quietly. His expression shifted to something almost vulnerable. What do you want? I looked up at this powerful, dangerous man who was looking at me like I held all the answers. I want to understand you. I want to know if this is just alpha instinct or if there's something real between us. Then let me show you. He lowered his forehead to mine. Starting tonight. Starting now. Let me show you exactly what you mean to me. And despite every logical reason to be cautious, despite knowing the danger that came with truly belonging to Caspian Morretti, I nodded. Because for the first time I wanted to find out what we could be if we stopped hiding from each other. Morning light filtered through the curtains, pulling me from restless sleep. I'd spent the night in Caspian's bed, actually sleeping for the first time since our wedding. He'd held me close, his arms a protective barrier against the world, and for once I'd felt completely safe. Now padding downstairs in borrowed clothes, I found him in the kitchen. He stood at the counter in dark slacks and a partially unbuttoned shirt, his attention fixed on his phone. The domestic scene felt surreal. This dangerous man making coffee like any ordinary husband. Morning, I said softly, not wanting to startle him. He looked up and something in his expression made me pause. There was satisfaction there, cold and calculating. You should see this. He handed me his phone and I felt my blood run cold. The screen displayed a news article with a headline that made my hands tremble. Elite socialite Vivienne Ross arrested for assault on Omega. Mafia ties under investigation. Below it were several other headlines, each more damning than the last. Ross family business partners withdraw support. Vivienne Ross. From high society to criminal charges. The fall of the Ross empire. What did you do? My voice came out barely above a whisper. Caspian took the phone back, his movements deliberate and calm. He poured coffee into 2 mugs, the picture of composure. I simply made sure the right people knew what happened last night. The legal system is handling the assault charge. The business consequences are merely natural outcomes. Natural. I moved closer, my heart racing. Her family's entire empire is collapsing. Look at this. Her father's company lost 3 major contracts overnight. Their stock price dropped 40%. This isn't natural, Caspian. This is calculated destruction. He set down his coffee cup and turned to face me fully. The warmth from last night had been replaced by something harder, more dangerous. This was the man the city feared, the alpha who ruled the underworld with an iron fist. She humiliated you in front of hundreds of people, he said, his voice low and steady. She threw wine at you, called you degrading names, made you feel worthless, and everyone just watched. They laughed. Do you think that deserves no consequence? I think there's a difference between consequence and complete annihilation. I set the phone down on the counter between us. Her life is being destroyed. Her family's legacy is crumbling. All because of one terrible moment. One terrible moment that could have been stopped by any of those people, Caspian countered. But they didn't. They stood by and let it happen because they thought you were nobody. They thought there would be no repercussions. I'm simply correcting that misconception. His words made logical sense, in a twisted way. But the scale of his response terrified me. If this was how he reacted to someone insulting me, what would he do to someone who actually tried to hurt me? Are you afraid of me now? He asked, reading my expression with unsettling accuracy. I wanted to lie, to maintain some pretense of strength. But after last night's honesty, I couldn't go back to hiding. A little, yes. Something flickered across his face, hurt maybe, or disappointment. His pheromones shifted, losing some of their aggressive edge. He crossed the distance between us and gently took my hands in his. Kian, look at me. I lifted my gaze to meet his steel-gray eyes. I will never hurt you, he said with absolute conviction. My anger, my violence, my darkness, none of it will ever be directed at you. You are the one person in this world who is kept safe from me. But anyone who tries to harm you, they will learn why people fear the Morretti name. That's what scares me. I admitted. Not that you'll hurt me, but that you'll destroy everything around me. What if I accidentally make you angry? What if someone says something rude to me at the grocery store? Will you ruin their life too? He pulled me closer and I could feel the tension in his body. Do you think I'm indiscriminate? That I can't tell the difference between a genuine threat and minor rudeness? I don't know, I said honestly. I'm still learning who you really are. That seemed to strike something deep within him. He released my hands and turned away, running his fingers through his hair in a rare display of frustration. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Last night, when I walked into that gala and saw you standing there covered in wine, shaking, your pheromones screaming distress, something inside me broke. He turned back to face me. I've hurt people, Kian. I've done things that would make you sick if you knew the details. But I've always been in control. Always calculated. Last night, I wanted to tear that place apart with my bare hands. But you didn't, I pointed out. Because you were there. Because I needed to get you somewhere safe first. He moved to the window, staring out at the manicured grounds. The restraint it took to walk calmly out of that building. To not break Vivienne's neck right there in front of everyone. You have no idea. A chill ran down my spine. He wasn't exaggerating. He would have killed her, so destroying her life was the compromise? I asked quietly. Yes. He didn't turn around, and I'm not sorry for it. I won't apologize for protecting what's mine. There it was again, that possessive language that both thrilled and frightened me. I walked over to stand beside him at the window. In the morning light I could see the exhaustion on his face, the tightness around his eyes that spoke of a sleepless night despite holding me. Is it protection or possession? I asked the question that had been haunting me since last night. He finally looked at me and I saw something vulnerable in his expression. I don't know how to separate the two. In my world, the things you possess are the things you protect with everything you have. But with you, he reached out and traced my cheekbone with one finger. It feels different, deeper, more consuming. I need you to figure it out, I said, my heart pounding. Because I can't be with someone who sees me as a possession. I've spent my whole life being treated like I'm less, like I'm just an object to be used or discarded. I won't accept that from you no matter how much power you have. The words hung between us, heavy with implications. This was a line in the sand, a boundary I was setting, despite the fear, despite knowing he could destroy my life as easily as he'd destroyed Vivienne's. His phone buzzed, breaking the tension. He glanced at it, and a grim smile crossed his face. Vivienne's trying to negotiate with her family's business partners. They're refusing to take her calls. Caspian, tell me what you want, he interrupted, his full attention back on me. Right now, tell me what you want me to do. I took a deep breath, gathering my courage. I want you to stop. You've made your point. She's facing criminal charges. Her reputation is destroyed and everyone knows what she did was wrong. That's enough, is it? His eyes searched mine. Will that make you feel safe? Will that make you feel valued? What will make me feel valued is knowing that you respect my wishes even when they contradict your instincts. I held his gaze steadily. I'm not asking you to let people hurt me. I'm asking you to trust that some battles don't need to be fought to the death. The silence stretched between us, loaded with unspoken challenges and questions. Finally, Caspian reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He dialed a number, his eyes never leaving mine. "Stop all actions against the Ross family," he said into the phone. "Business contracts, legal pressure, everything. The assault charge stands, but nothing else. Make it happen." He ended the call and slipped the phone back into his pocket. "Happy?" "Happier," I admitted, "but I need to know something, Caspian. I need to understand if what you feel for me is real or if I'm just another possession in your collection." His expression shifted again, becoming something raw and unguarded. But before he could answer, his phone rang again. He looked at the screen and his jaw tightened. "I have to take this. It's important." He lifted the phone to his ear. What? Whatever he heard made his entire body go rigid. His pheromones spiked, cedarwood and smoke mixed with something sharp and dangerous. "When?" A pause. "How many people know?" Another pause. "Handle it. I'll be there in an hour." He lowered the phone slowly, and when he looked at me there was something in his eyes I couldn't quite read. "I have to go. Business emergency." He moved toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "About your question whether this is real or possession, I don't have a good answer, but I'm going to figure it out. I promise you that." Then he was gone, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen with cold coffee and more questions than answers. He didn't come home that night, or the next day, or the day after that. The guards remained, silent sentinels ensuring my safety. The estate staff moved around me with polite deference. But Caspian himself was absent, and that absence felt like a physical wound. My omega instincts screamed for my alpha, my pheromones cycling between distress and confusion. The vanilla scent that usually surrounded me turned bitter, like burned sugar, broadcasting my emotional turmoil to anyone nearby. I tried to tell myself I was being ridiculous. We'd barely started to truly know each other. One vulnerable conversation didn't mean I should fall apart at his absence. But logic didn't match what my body was feeling. Every instinct I had was demanding to find him, to make sure he was safe, to understand why he'd left. By the third morning I couldn't take it anymore. I'd pushed him for answers, demanded he examine his feelings, and then he'd vanished. What if I'd driven him away permanently? What if he'd decided I was more trouble than I was worth? I dressed carefully in clothes from my own wardrobe, simple but professional. If I was going to confront an alpha crime lord in his office, I needed whatever confidence I could muster. The guards tried to discourage me, citing security concerns, but I insisted. One of them finally drove me to Caspian's downtown headquarters, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that housed both legitimate business operations and his more questionable enterprises. The lobby was all marble and modern art, intimidatingly expensive. People in designer suits moved with purpose, their pheromones carefully controlled and professional. I felt out of place immediately, too ordinary for this world of power and wealth. The elevator ride to the top floor felt eternal. When the doors opened, I was faced with a reception area where a severe-looking beta sat behind a massive desk. Her nameplate read Morgan Tate, Executive Assistant. "I need to see Caspian Morretti," I said, trying to sound confident. Morgan's eyes swept over me with cool assessment. "Mr. Morretti isn't seeing anyone today. If you have an appointment, I'm his husband." The effect was immediate and dramatic. Morgan's professional mask cracked, her eyes widening in genuine shock. She'd clearly had no idea her boss was married. After a moment of stunned silence, she composed herself and picked up her phone. "Sir, there's someone here claiming to be..." She paused, listening. "Yes, sir. Of course." She hung up and gestured toward a set of imposing double doors. "You can go in." My heart hammered as I crossed the reception area. I pushed open the doors and entered an office that screamed power, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, expensive furniture, walls lined with what looked like first-edition books. And behind a massive desk sat Caspian. He looked terrible. His usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, shirt wrinkled, tie loosened, hair mussed like he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, and his pheromones were so heavy with stress and conflict that they hit me like a physical force. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, his voice rough from exhaustion. "You didn't give me a choice." I closed the doors behind me and moved further into the room. "You disappeared. 3 days, Caspian. 3 days without a word." I needed time to think, He stood, and even exhausted he was imposing. You asked me a question I couldn't answer. You needed me to understand my own feelings, and I realized I didn't. So I've been trying to figure it out. By hiding from me, by keeping my distance so I could think clearly. He moved around the desk but didn't approach me. Every time I'm near you, all I can think about is touching you, claiming you, making sure you're safe. Your scent drives every rational thought from my head. How am I supposed to analyze my feelings when being in the same room makes me lose control? The raw honesty in his words stopped my anger cold. You've been staying away because you can't think when I'm around? Yes. He leaned against the desk, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. 3 days, Kian. 3 days of barely sleeping, of trying to understand why you affect me this way. And I think I finally have an answer. My breath caught. What is it? He pushed off the desk and finally closed the distance between us. When he spoke, his voice was low and intense, every word carefully chosen. The first time I saw you was at a business conference 6 months before our families arranged the marriage. You were there with your old boss, taking notes in a corner. Nobody paid attention to you. You were just the assistant, invisible to all those important people. But I noticed you. This was news to me. I'd had no idea we'd met before our wedding day. Your scent reached me across the room, he continued. Vanilla and caramel, warm and sweet and completely intoxicating. I tracked you down afterward, found out everything about you. Your name, your job, your family's financial troubles. And then I approached my father with a proposal. My heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying the arranged marriage wasn't arranged by chance. His gray eyes held mine, unflinching in their honesty. I manipulated the situation. I made sure our families came together. Made sure the business deal that saved your father's company included a marriage clause. I engineered everything so that you would become mine. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. You manipulated everything? Our entire marriage was a scheme. Yes. He didn't try to soften it. And before you ask if it was about possession, yes, at first it was. I wanted you, so I took steps to have you. I used my power and influence to arrange circumstances that would bind you to me legally. Betrayal burned through my chest. How is that any different from kidnapping? You stole my choice. I know. His jaw was tight. Believe me, I know. These past 3 days I've been forcing myself to confront exactly what kind of man that makes me. A monster who sees something he wants and takes it regardless of consent or morality. Then why are you telling me this? Tears burned my eyes. Why confess now? Because you asked me if this was real or just possession. He moved closer despite my obvious distress. And the answer is, it started as possession. Pure selfish possession. I saw something beautiful and wanted it for myself. But then I actually got to know you. He stopped just out of reach, giving me space while still maintaining eye contact. Living with you, even at a distance, changed something. Your kindness to the staff, the way you never complained about our arrangement, how you maintained your independence despite being bound to someone like me. Every small interaction made me more fascinated. And last night, when I held you, when you trusted me enough to sleep in my arms, that's when I finally understood. Understood what? My voice shook. That possession became something else without me realizing it. His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I can't eat without wondering if you've eaten. Can't sleep without wishing you were beside me. Your absence physically hurts. Your scent is the first thing I want in the morning and the last thing I crave at night. Is that love? I don't know. I've never felt anything like it. But it's consuming me, Kian. You're consuming me. Tears spilled down my cheeks. How can I trust anything between us when it was built on manipulation? You probably can't. His admission was brutally honest. I don't deserve your trust. I don't deserve you at all. But I'm hoping, his voice cracked slightly, that maybe we can start over. Not as a contract or an arrangement, but as two people choosing each other. Choosing? I wiped my eyes. When have I ever had a choice with you? Right now. He stepped back, deliberately putting distance between us. I'm giving you one. Walk out that door, and I'll arrange for an annulment. You'll get a generous settlement, enough to never worry about money. Your family's business will remain stable. You'll be completely free of me. My breath caught at the unexpected offer. Or, he continued, stay. Get to know the real me, monster and all. Let me earn your trust properly this time. Let me show you what you could mean to someone who's never cared about anything except power. I stared at him. This powerful alpha who was offering me freedom instead of chains. Everything logical told me to run, to escape before I got hurt worse. But my heart, my stubborn omega heart, was screaming something different. I thought about the past 3 days of misery, the way my body ached for him. I thought about how he'd defended me at the gala, how he'd held me through the night. I thought about the vulnerability in his eyes right now, the way he was laying himself bare, despite the obvious terror of rejection. Maybe I was an idiot. Maybe I'd regret this. But I knew what my answer was. I closed the distance between us and pressed my lips to his. The kiss was different from anything I'd expected. Not desperate or demanding, but gentle, almost hesitant, as if Caspian was afraid I might shatter. His hands came up to frame my face with a tenderness that contradicted everything I knew about him. When we finally broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. "Is that your answer?" he asked softly, his forehead resting against mine. "It's the beginning of one," I replied. "I'm not saying I forgive everything. I'm not saying I trust you completely. But I'm saying I want to try." Something in his expression cracked open, revealing depths of emotion I hadn't known existed. His pheromones shifted dramatically, that cedar wood and smoke taking on notes of warmth and something almost sweet. Relief, maybe. Or hope. "I don't know how to do this," he admitted. "I've never tried to earn someone's affection before. I'm not good at being vulnerable or soft." "Then we'll figure it out together." I pulled back enough to look him in the eyes. "But I need you to promise me something. Anything. No more manipulating my life. No more making decisions for me without my input. If we're going to make this work, it has to be a partnership. Not you controlling everything while I just exist in your world." He nodded slowly. "That's going to be difficult for me. My instinct is to control everything, to eliminate threats before they materialize, to keep you safe by keeping you isolated." "I know, but if you can't let me have agency in my own life, then this will never work." I held his gaze steadily. "I need to be your equal, not your possession." "You're not my equal," he said, and my heart sank until he continued. "You're better than me. You're good in ways I've never been. But I understand what you mean, and I'll try. It's going to take practice, but I'll try." That was more than I'd expected, more honesty than I'd thought him capable of. "There's something else," I said hesitantly. "The Vivienne situation. I asked you to stop the revenge, and you did. That matters to me. It shows you can respect my wishes even when they go against your nature." A shadow crossed his face. "Don't make me into something I'm not. Kian?" I stopped because you asked, but it took every ounce of control I have. Every instinct screamed to finish what I started, to make an example that would terrify anyone who might think about hurting you. But you didn't. This time. His jaw tightened. "I can't guarantee I'll always be able to show that restraint. If someone tries to actually harm you, not just insult you, I won't stop. I can't promise I'll stop." The honesty was brutal but necessary. This was who he was, an alpha who protected his own with lethal force. I couldn't change his fundamental nature, only hope that he'd let me temper it. "Then I'll just have to be there to remind you when you're going too far," I said. "You'd really want to be with someone like me? Knowing what I am, what I do?" The vulnerability in his voice struck me. "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But I want the chance to find out. These past 3 days without you were miserable. My body ached. My pheromones were a mess. I couldn't concentrate on anything. That has to mean something." He pulled me close again, burying his face in my neck where he could scent me properly. I felt him inhale deeply, his entire body relaxing at the vanilla caramel smell that marked me as his omega. "Your scent is already shifting," he murmured against my skin. "The burnt sugar is fading. You smell happy again." I wrapped my arms around him, feeling the solid strength of his body. "Take me home. My estate or your apartment." "Our home," I corrected. "Wherever that is, it should be ours. Not yours. Not a place I'm just staying temporarily. If we're doing this, I need to feel like I belong there." He pulled back to look at me, something like wonder in his expression. "You want to make a home with me? Is that so surprising?" "Yes." He touched my face again, like he couldn't quite believe I was real. I've never had anyone want that with me before. People fear me, obey me, sometimes even desire me, but no one's ever wanted to build something with me. The loneliness in those words broke something in my chest. For all his power and control, Caspian was fundamentally alone. He'd built an empire but had no one to share it with, surrounded himself with people who served him but didn't know him. Then let's start now, I said. Take me home and we'll figure out what our life together actually looks like. The drive back to the estate felt different this time. Caspian kept one hand linked with mine the entire journey, his thumb tracing absent patterns on my skin. We didn't talk much, but the silence was comfortable rather than tense. Through the bond of our touch, I could feel his pheromones slowly settling into something more peaceful than I'd ever sensed from him. When we arrived, he surprised me by opening my car door himself rather than letting the driver do it. Another small gesture that felt significant, him serving me rather than being served. Inside, he led me not to the bedroom but to the kitchen. Are you hungry? Starving, actually. I realized I'd barely eaten the past few days. Good. Because I'm gonna cook for you. At my surprised expression, he added, I learned when I was younger before everything. It's one of the few normal skills I have. Watching Caspian cook was surreal. This man who commanded an empire, who made people tremble with a look, was carefully chopping vegetables and explaining his technique. His movements were precise and confident, the same focus he brought to everything else now applied to creating a meal. Why have you never cooked for me before? I asked, sitting at the counter to watch. Because I thought you'd see it as beneath me. Alphas in my position don't typically perform domestic tasks. He glanced at me. But you don't care about those social expectations, do you? Not even a little. I smiled. I think it's attractive, actually. Seeing you do something normal and kind. His answering smile was genuine, transforming his usually severe features into something almost boyish. Then I'll cook for you more often. We talked while he worked, real conversation, not the careful pleasantries we'd exchanged before. I told him about my childhood, about being bullied for being an omega, about the loneliness of never feeling good enough. He shared pieces of his past too. The parts he usually kept locked away, his father's brutal training, the violence he'd witnessed as a child, the way emotions had been beaten out of him until he became the perfect weapon for the family business. But you still feel things, I observed. You just hide them. I had to. Showing weakness in my world gets you killed. He plated the food, pasta in a cream sauce that smelled incredible. With you though, I don't want to hide anymore. We ate together at the kitchen island, our knees touching, sharing food from each other's forks. Such a simple domestic scene, but it felt revolutionary for us. This was intimacy, not the physical kind, but something deeper. The sharing of space and time and honest conversation. After dinner, we moved to the living room. Caspian pulled me down beside him on the couch, arranging us so my back rested against his chest. His arms wrapped around me loosely, not restraining, just hold. Tell me something, I said quietly. What do you want from this? From us? He was quiet for a long moment, his chin resting on top of my head. I want mornings where I wake up next to you. I want to know your favorite foods and what makes you laugh. I want you to feel safe enough to tell me when I'm being an overbearing alpha. He paused, struggling with the words. I want to be someone worthy of you. Tears prickled my eyes again. You don't have to be perfect, Caspian. You just have to try. Then I will. Every day I'll try to be better for you. His pheromones wrapped around us both, cedar wood and smoke blending with my vanilla caramel until they were inseparable. This was what bonding smelled like, what it felt like when two people's scents merged into something new and unified. Promise me something, I said. What? Promise that if you ever feel yourself losing control, if the darkness gets too strong, you'll come to me. You'll let me help you find your way back. His arms tightened slightly. I promise. And I need you to promise me something too. What's that? Promise you won't give up on me when things get hard. Because they will get hard. My world is dangerous, and there will be times when my instincts override my better judgments. I need to know you'll be patient with me, while I learn how to be someone's partner. I turned in his arms so I could see his face. I promise. We're in this together now. He kissed me then, slow and sweet, a kiss that sealed promises and marked new beginnings. When we finally broke apart, both of us were smiling. "So what now?" I asked. "Now we start our real life together." He stood and offered me his hand. "And maybe we begin by you showing me which of these dozen guest rooms you'd like to convert into something that's actually yours. An office, a studio, whatever you want. This is your home too." I took his hand and let him pull me up. As we walked through the enormous estate, discussing possibilities and making plans, I realized something important. This wasn't the fairy tale ending where everything was suddenly perfect. It is messier than that. More complicated. We had months of learning each other ahead of us. Countless obstacles to overcome and no guarantee we'd make it through. But for the first time since I'd said I do, I actually believed we had a chance. Not because Caspian had manipulated circumstances to make it so, but because we were choosing it, both of us, together, deciding to build something real from the ashes of an arranged marriage. And that choice, that mutual decision to try, meant everything.